Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lisa and this is Growing on Vancouver Island. Today we're going to be potting up some strawberries and creating a herb container. These containers are all going to be going on both our front patio and our back patio. I was 100% inspired to create this episode and following episodes from Tiffany in Team Benson's Desert Garden. She encourages all gardeners to make the best use of the space they have, and I have to say I have not been doing that very well, so I'm going to be greening up our patio spaces to try to grow more food. So let's plant some containers. And here is my assistant who has decided this is probably the best time to take a nap. So here are the containers we're going to be planting our strawberries in. These are railing containers that I'm going to be hanging off of our front deck. I'm going to be putting some strawberries in them and some nasturtium seeds because I thought it would be fun to have them trailing down the side of our front deck. And behind here we have the pot that I'm going to be planting our herbs in. There's little bits of leftover moss that I'm repurposing from my Easter container project. And this moss is all moss that I harvested from our backyard. We're going to be using that as kind of a ground cover in the container to keep the moisture in. So here are the strawberries we're going to be potting up in containers, and let's take a quick look at the varieties. The first variety we have is called Seascape. It's a day neutral strawberry. And it features early ever-bearing berries with few runners. Fruit is produced 3 months after planting. Plant in full sun for large fruit that can be harvested every 3 to 4 days all summer. It has shiny deep green leaves, large early blooms, and white flowers, and harvesting is June until frost. Plant in fertile, well-drained soil, keep soil moist, and fertilize after harvest, full sun. And the second variety we're going to be planting is called Berries Basket Rose. It is a day neutral strawberry. And let's see what the back says. It features well suited to baskets and planters. These vigorous ever-bearing plants produce lots of runners and bear large, deep red, full flavored berries until first frost. Deep rose flowers. And they harvest all summer. Size medium, and they are trailing. So that sounds quite good. Now let's get to planting. Let's pot up our containers. For soil, I'm going to be using a mix that I have pre-mixed. It's a combination of the dollar store potting mix and a couple other potting mix empty bags, or almost empty bags, that I mixed together. And I am going to be amending this soil mix with a little bit of vermiculite, a little bit of granular kelp to give these guys a boost, some bone meal plus fertilizer, and a little bit of sand just to maybe give the containers more drainage. They do have a drainage hole on the bottom, but it is pretty small, so hopefully it's good enough, the drainage in these containers. Oh, Zipper, you got dirty. So let's add our kelp. Zipper, we do not eat kelp fertilizer, my friends. And some bone meal plus fertilizer. And a little bit more sand into the mix. And a tiny bit of vermiculite. And now we're gonna mix it all up. And get our strawberries planted. And of course, it wouldn't be gardening if we didn't make a big mess at the same time. We've got dirt flying everywhere here. Now let's give them a little drink of water, because they are pretty dry, these guys. And we are going to add our nasturtium seeds. So now we are going to add our nasturtium seeds. This variety is called Jewel Mixed Colors, and we're going to be putting, I'm thinking, 2 or 3 seeds in each container. Hopefully that's not too many and this becomes a wild, overgrown mess, but you never know how well they're going to germinate. So let's put a few in each container. This is what the seeds look like in case you haven't seen nasturtium seeds before. We're just going to plop them in a couple inches down into the moist soil. I think I'm going with about 3 per container. And that's it. I am going to show you where these guys are going to go, but first we are going to plant up our herb containers. So here we have the container we're going to be using for our herb garden. This is the same container I used in the recent Easter inspiration container. And it does have drainage holes in the bottom. And we're going to be putting just 3 herbs into this container. We have this little pot here with these tiny little herbs. We have rosemary, sage, and thyme. So we're also going to be repurposing the soil from my previous project. I might just top it up a wee bit with what I've got here, just to get it a little higher up since it appears to have settled. That's better. And I think we may add in a little bit of kelp meal and vermiculite, just to get these guys off to a good start. This is kelp meal that I like to use, and a little bit of vermiculite. And this herb container is going to go right on the table that we are making it on. This is right pretty much back to our back patio sliding door, and right beside it is our kitchen. And I think it's really important to have a herb garden somewhere close to where you're going to be using it. If you're like me, I tend to be a very lazy chef, so I like to have my food very accessible. So putting a herb garden literally right outside the kitchen door seems like a very good idea to me. So our container is nice and refreshed, and now we're going to plant our herbs. And we're going to separate these guys. And I am going to plant them pretty far apart because I do believe that these guys are going to mature and grow quite a bit in size. So this container will probably be quite full by the time they're mature plants. I'm going to plant the thyme on the edge to let it creep over a little bit. And the rosemary over here. Now I'm just going to water in these plants, and then I'll show you where their new homes are going to be. Before we do that, let's just add a little bit of ground cover moss to keep the moisture in this lovely arrangement of herbs. Probably not going to cover it completely, but just give a bit of a layer of moss to maintain some level of moisture in this pot. I certainly have enough moss that I could cover the whole pot, but I also don't want to go overboard either. Sort of just a little bit to retain moisture, but not retain too much moisture. So that's pretty good. We've got a little bit of airspace between each plant, and I think the moisture level should be adequate with what we've got going on. So now let's go and see where they're going to live. Now this man has decided that rolling around in the gravel is a great idea to give me a little more to tidy up when we're finished. But he's having a great time, so that's what matters. So this is where our herb garden container is going to live. It is just a short distance from our kitchen, which is behind those doors. So let's take a look at the strawberries' new home. Here we have our strawberry planters, and this is where they're going to live, on our front deck. So that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely day.